banger. Coming up this weekend, boxing supremacy on the line. We have Mexico's El Loco Manuel Torres taking on Iron Nikolas Motta out of Extreme Couture. And if you're not excited about this fight, you should be, because both these guys come to bang. And when you consider for Nikolas Motta, the much more well-known commodity to MMA fans for a longer period of time, he debuted on The Ultimate Fighter Brazil Season 4, a season that was supposed to be headlined by Anderson Silva taking on Shogun Rua. Season didn't end that way, but that's what it was supposed to be. And for Nikolas Motta, he was actually picked higher up on the season by Anderson Silva than Joaquim Silva, who's in the co-main event of this weekend's card. And the craziest part about it is, for Nikolas Motta, he had Joaquim Silva in his corner on Dana White's Contender Series when he fought a few years ago. So wild parallels out of Brazil, and I'm sure they're going to be chumming it up coming up ahead of this weekend's card. But if we do look at it for Nikolas Motta, he takes on Gleiko França on that opening round of the show. He lands a head kick, he drops França, and then he ends up getting finished by submission. And that's a scary thing when you want to pick a fight for either one of these guys. Motta, for what it's worth, 13 wins. He's got plenty of finish wins on that record. He gets it done with his hands and his boxing. He will go to the well with his two attacks. Overhand right head kick. But for Motta, he's been finished in all of his losses, and we saw that against Jim Miller. We saw that on not Contender Series, The Ultimate Fighter. We saw that with, 864 promotions. It's the struggle that Motta's going to have when he tries to pick that one right shot, where sometimes he can get caught in the mirror and hit. And Motta's one of those guys that from a young age, training at big gyms, Novo and Yao, before he came to the States to train at Extreme Couture, he's always been there with a lot of good guys in the gym. But the same thing can be said for Manuel Torres, who fights like somebody's got a lighter under his ass.
Like a banshee.
He goes so hard, and when you consider the gyms and getting ready for these fights, Motta out of Extreme Couture, he was supposed to take on a really tough fighter in Ignacio Bahamondes back a few months ago. Manuel Torres was supposed to take on Trey Ogden a few months ago. Neither guy could make the walk, so let's have Bahamondes fight Trey Ogden, and Bahamondes got the win there. But if you do look at it in this one, Torres getting ready for this fight, he is trained at, and I will quote, some of the biggest gyms. We're talking about Entram Gym, MMA Masters, in Vegas with some really good fighters. Also, Centro Deportivo Tibet out of Spain with one Joel Alvarez, who's got a big-time fight coming up in the not-so-distant future against Mark Jacasey in July in the UK card. So, Matt, for Manuel Torres, I know he got that submission win over the El Caneda, where he pulls on the guillotine as tight as I've ever seen one popped. Like he was Josh Fremd against Tresean Gore.
Shout out.
But, Matt, when I'm watching Manuel Torres fights, like, I get a phoner.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how Motta deals with the flurry that is Manuel Torres. Because the thing about Motta is, he is a great power striker when he's able to land that power shot. But he leads with his chin and not his hand. He'll go like this. You can get a better look this way. I have a big nose, I know. Ready? And then boom. And that's what I do really worry about, because if Nikolas Motta is trying to land that big power shot, really overcommitting to a lot of these, Manuel Torres is like death by 1,000 cuts. Even though he is a powerful striker, he's going to throw a lot at you, and by sheer volume, it's going to give him a great chance to hurt a guy like Motta. And the thing about Manuel Torres is, if he hurts him, he's going to throw that extra flurry.
Where's Nikolas Motta on the Andrei Arlovsky chin rate? That's what it is.
It is, because now, here's the honest thing. Jim Miller could be the greatest knockout artist we've ever seen at this division, and hey, you could be right if you say that, but for Motta, it's not a great sign that he was knocked out by a guy who is so advanced in his career, when that is the thing that gives Motta so much success. I know the nickname's Iron, but we've seen him get cracked a lot, and when you are, I don't want to call him a 50-50 striker, he's like a 65-35 striker, you know, he's going to win a lot of the exchanges, but he is susceptible to the big strike. If he can disrupt Manuel Torres' rhythm, though, I do think Motta can have a lot of success, because Torres is a guy who, once he gets going, he really likes to keep that rhythm and maintain his distance, maintain his output. And if Motta can disrupt it, land the big power shot, hurt the confidence to where he's not able to just stand in the pocket and land his own shots and really get his volume numbers up to win the rounds, I could see Motta being able to land some of those big counter strikes. But if my prediction is, I think Torres is going to win a lot of the moments unless Motta lands that big shot, it is difficult for me, not to see a world where Motta wins. I'm not saying that at all. But it's difficult for me to see how Motta wins by decision, I guess is what I'm saying. Because I do think he is going to be waiting a lot for the big shot.
Torres burns so friggin' hot. If he makes it to the second round, it would surprise me. Because Torres is one of those guys, I think he has decent jiu-jitsu. I think he has okay wrestling. He trains with some really good fighters. Like that Masio Fullen trains at that gym. And he's fallen on hard times in terms of MMA and winning. So you're not necessarily your training partners. But Manuel Torres, for his credit, performance of the night bonus against, at that time, 7-fight UFC vet Frank Camacho. They had a firefight. Torres took Camacho's best shots. So you could see the chin of Torres. But he ends up pulling out the knockout win, drops Camacho, follows it up with some ground and pound. When you look at it for Motta, again, the similarities with fighters on this card. If you watch the preamble into Contender Series, well, I mean, Motta, he's a CFFC champ, just like Pat Sabatini was in the next fight. He also has trained with some big fighters out of Brazil. And in one of those pictures, I saw the big-time smiley smile out of Raoni Barcelos is also on this fight card, so some parallels there. But for Motta, it's a lot of, again, the boxing combinations, the leg kick, the overhead. He will throw that head kick with his right foot. But when you consider for both these guys, obviously the right hook in close for Jim Miller, it dropped Motta, and that was a finishing sequence. But against Cameron Van Camp, it was Motta able to go out there against a bigger, taller fighter, which is similar to the parallel of Manuel Torres fight. And Motta was able to land at will, eat some of the power shots of Van Camp, and keep on ticking. So when I do consider this matchup, Matt, I see this a lot like an AHL hockey fight between Fredericton, New Brunswick's own Eric Nielsen and the biggest hockey fighter of all time, Steve McIntyre, where, and I'll link it in the comments section, the guy who's calling that one had some things to say like, those are man-sized punches, as well as his nose looks like a stick of butter in July, and that was a 5-knuckle tango exhibition.
That guy was so excited for that fight.
It's one of the best hockey fights. If you've never seen it, which you probably haven't, you should. So I will link that below. Man. But Matt, this will be a big-time fight. This is one of my favorite fights on the card. Torres, a slight favorite in this one. I think the fans will side with him. I'm going to say over under 65% Torres.
I think it'll be over.
It's going to be over. It's way over. 602 total votes. 85% Torres. 82% by knockout. For the 15% that have Motta, 47% by decision, 42% by decision. Count me in as a 15%. I've got Nikolas Motta in this one to outlast Manuel Torres. I think Motta can keep a high shell like we've seen him in a lot of his fights and withstand some of the pressure because Torres burns so gosh darn hot. And we haven't seen him in over a year since he had that fight against Frank Camacho. So for me, I like Nikolas Motta in this fight, but going back and watching the tape on Torres, boy, oh boy. Is he fun to watch.
And I do have Torres in the matchup. Again, it's a close fight. Both guys could get stopped really at any moment, but I think he's going to be able to win a lot of the in-betweens. So you're right, he does burn hot, but I'm hoping he takes the foot off the gas a little bit because he does have good volume, and if he can just extend that into that second and third round, I do think we could be dealing with an exciting top-level prospect is too high a praise, but just a decent fighter moving forward because he does have great skills to build on. So I do have Torres in the matchup, but this is a great fight.
I mean, I wrote down for the former beatdown champ, Manuel Torres, elbows, knees, looping shots, straight shots. Craig, write down everything he does.
Shoulders, knees, and toes.
6 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission for Torres. And if you consider it not necessarily a giant submission threat, even though there's 6 submission wins, the level of competition not the greatest on the regional scene for Torres. Matt, split on the pick in this one. I'm going Iron Nikolas Motta. You're going with El Loco Manuel Torres. Let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Some big time matchups on this card, including Vettori and Cannonier in the main event. And up next, Pat Sabatini taking on Lucas Almeida. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.